Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grieving process. Join Dave and his guests now as they share practice tips and tools that you can start using immediately to help get you through this day. Now, here's your caregiver host, Dave Nassaney.
And from Los Angeles and New York City, a big LA welcome and a big Apple welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com, along with my lovely co-host Adrienne Gruberg at thecaregiverspace.org. Coming to you live 24/7 on 17 global audio and video platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, Mixcloud, Listen Notes, Blueberry, Player FM, Podcast.com, VIP Internet Radio, Facebook Live, HealthyLife.net, and CaregiverDave.com. All in one breath. That's a record for me.
I was going to say.
I've been practicing. We are proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast of the top 50 on Player FM. Out of thousands, they say, and one of the top 6 best podcasts on caring.com, and another one that I'm going to have to write down because I can never remember the name of that one. But we have an exciting show planned for you today, don't we, Adrienne?
Yes, we do.
FeedSpot. FeedSpot, yes. Number 3 on FeedSpot out of the top, I don't know, a lot. Melissa Lyons. Melissa Lyons is an international best-selling author and inspirational speaker. She's passionate about helping people shift into the life that they were meant to live, regardless of their current situation. Sounds important. By uncovering limiting beliefs and guilt patterns, she leads people to reveal and connect with their life purpose. Her heartwarming and profound books, I Will Always Love You, and Until We Meet Again, are about hope and love when faced with grief, loss, and heartache. But before we get started, I want to take this moment to thank my last week's guest. Carol Novello is the founder of Mutual Rescue, a national initiative that highlights the connection between people and pets. And I was successful in connecting my friend, Clarissa Gero, whose life was saved. She was anorexic, and this kitten that was scratching at her door actually saved her life when she was 79 years old. And they're going to make a film about her. Isn't that great, Adrienne?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Connected another person to Mutual Rescue. I couldn't think of the name there for a moment. Anyway, just a reminder, you can watch or listen to that interview and all our interviews on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of those other 17 global networks that I mentioned earlier. All right, enough of that. Welcome to the show, Melissa. So excited to have you on.
Thanks. It's great to be here, Dave and Adrienne.
Great. And are those must be pictures from your book behind you that I see, because I have your book and they look very familiar. The watercolors, huh?
Well, these are actually pictures of my newest book that we're not even talking about yet. But yeah, they are part of the same. It's all the same.
The same illustrator that you used?
No, each one is different, but you know what? They're all connected. I guess spiritually somehow it's all intertwined.
Yeah, and you're sitting in such a way that it looks like your aura. You must have planned that. Anyway, we like to take our guests and ask them to. We ask a special question. It says, who is Melissa Lyons and why was she put on this earth?
Well, the first 50 years of my life, I think I was put on this earth to figure out that question myself.
Did you say 50?
I did, yeah.
Oh, you look like just a child.
But it actually happened at 50 years and 6 days, where it was just the aha that I'd been searching for my whole life. Because I always felt like there was more that I was meant to do, and everything was going okay, but nothing was resonating like it was the thing. And then I Will Always Love You came into my life, and since then, there's been this, I know who I am now, and I know why I'm here.
Wow. I just can't get over that you're 50. 50 must be the new 30.
Yeah, there you
Adrienne?
go.
And I'm 65, and I guess that makes 65 the new 45. And Adrienne is 73?
Oh, please.
71, I'm sorry. So many things are, and 71 is the new 51.
50.
50, sorry.
I don't know. It is, yeah. What used to be old sure isn't anymore.
Yes.
I'll say that.
No.
But yeah.
Well, I'm looking on my computer for all my pages, and oh, there it is. All right, that's just technical jargon. Just pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. So you wrote this book. Apparently, you've written another one, but this one is "I Will Always Love You," and it's such a beautiful illustrated book. And I mean, it looks like a children's book, but I'm an adult and I like it, so that makes
I
me a
loved
child
it.
at heart, I guess.
It resonated with me.
So, what was your hope and your goal in writing this book? Talk about what you hope to accomplish with this particular book, because it could just be another cutesy children's book, but I think you want more for that, don't you?
Oh, I do. I want so much more. And the thing is that you're right. It's for people of all ages, and it's written for the inner child in all of us. We lose our parents, and we're still the child, and you go back to that. So regardless of the age, and also even when you're older, a grandparent even, and you've got your grandchild, and you're trying just to talk them through a really difficult time. This book is there to give people permission to grieve however they need to grieve, but then to live again. It's taking that next step. It's not rushing it, and it's not saying what you need to do, but it is saying you do have permission, and you can shine your light in honor of the person who it is that you're grieving or losing. And it doesn't have to be a person. It could be a situation. It could be a marriage. It could be it could be Alzheimer's. Like, it could be any of those things where that person who you had is no longer with you in that same form, and you're needing to move on.
So the common theme on this is grief and the grief process. And it's hard to find a caregiver who is not grieving in some form or another. If it's a spousal caregiver, they're grieving the loss of their spouse, like my wife lost her speech, became paralyzed on the right side, so I still love her. We still get along, and we still do things together, but she's not the same woman that I married, and we can't do the same things that we used to do. So that part of me still grieves, like when we're in Hawaii and we want to go down to the beach and she can't. So just when we think we're out of the grief process and we've reached acceptance, something comes up and you say, oh, can't do that. What a bummer. So explain your interpretation of the grief process. There's so many definitions, so many interpretations of it, the 5 processes that Mary Keebler-Ross talks about, and so many others.
Yeah, there are. There's so many different approaches to it, and my thinking, and it's not just grief. This is about any derailment in your life. We've got a path, and part of our path and part of our purpose is to find joy and to live with joy and to share joy and to share light. And anything that takes us off of that path, that's taking us down frustration, sadness, sorrow, any of those things, it just means we're off our path, and we've got to redirect our thoughts, like accept the situation, accept the reality, and find a different way to look at it, because it is what it is. And so it's a way of accepting the reality you've been faced with or dealt, because you can't change that. You only can change how you're filtering it, how you're processing it. And so once you have that moment that you're realizing, okay, I've got 2 ways to go here. Stay off my path or come back. And so find a way to come back. And I Will Always Love You is that journey of finding a way to look for that, not so much the silver lining, but the obvious lining that's going to bring you back to a state where you're going to be better for yourself and everyone else around you.
Wow. I wanted to ask you about every time a teacher, I'm told, well, I'm a teacher too, and it's true. Every time a teacher teaches a student, it seems like I learn as much or if not more than the student themselves. And many teachers teach not only to help others, but they learn a lot because it forces them to do the research or whatever, or they have those aha moments. So what, as a teacher, through your book, how has this book changed your life? And in what ways have you transformed since writing it?
The biggest transformation I would say for me is surrendering. Surrendering to that which you cannot control and accepting it as your reality and making it work for you, making it work for everybody. And it's more than making the most of the situation. It's actually making the situation everything that it needs to be to move you to that next place. But understanding you've got to work with what you've been given. You can't change some of the things. You can just change your response and your reaction to it. And I think for me also, the importance of acknowledging how important what we do, how many people, how it ripples to everybody else. So to your point about being a teacher, our emotional responses to everything is teaching somebody somewhere.
Right.
How
Even
to or
those
not
who
do
are
something.
just observers who are watching us, our kids.
I have a question. I'd like to know, Melissa, what motivated you to write the book? What was the aha moment that made you write it?
So I didn't set out to write that book or to be a writer. I sold a business. My last business I sold 7 or 8 years ago, and after I sold it, there was like seemingly success all around, and I still felt unfulfilled professionally. There was this hole, this dark cloud that had been chasing me my whole life and still continued to chase me. And so I started to journal and to start, like I pressed pause, I took time off of work, I read, I learned to meditate, I prayed, I did all these different things, but only to find out that the harder I tried, the farther away this sense of peace got, like trying to squeeze a handful of water. So I learned to sit back and allow, and that's what happened. One day when I was journaling, the words to this book came out, and it is a book about grief and loss, but I learned about 18 months after writing it that it was actually a letter from me to me, telling me that it was okay to move on and let go of what was and who I was and step into who I was meant to be and really embody something that I was afraid to embody. So yeah, it's a pretty deep answer. So I think what led me to write it was the fact that I needed to learn how to let go of who I was and step into who I am and grieve the loss of the years I spent not being who I really was.
But it's such a simple message, just let go and accept things you can't change. Duh. But it is so hard, but it's so powerful. I mean, a lot of people just wallow in grief for, days, weeks, months, years. Some people never get out of that wallowing in the grief. There's just something comforting about embracing your pain and trying to share that pain with others because misery loves company, and just having coffee with the devil every day. What is it about people that they don't want to get out of that comfortable place of pain and wallow and self-pity and just accept and embrace what they can't change?
Well, I think sometimes they don't know what they don't know. And you said it, it's so much easier than we think, and we tend to overcomplicate it. And we tend to allow our mind to be crowded with all those things that are getting us down. And if we could just stop and think, honestly, the number one thing I say to people who are ready to hear it and ask the question, I don't certainly say it if someone doesn't want this, but if you were to reverse your thinking right now and you're the person that someone else is grieving, be it your child or your spouse, how would you want them to be living? And would you want them to be behaving in a manner that you are? Would you want them to be missing their life? Would you want them to be not moving forward and not shining. And the truth is most of us would want more for everyone else. Mm-hmm. And we need to turn it around and say, then what am I teaching? What am I showing? What am I shining? Am I shining dark or light?
Yeah, and I give that advice all the time to caregivers. I say, the way you're treating your loved one, is that how you would want your children to treat you, or vice versa.
Right.
And it's just just put the shoe on the other foot, or put the glove on the other hand, or the golden rule, do unto others the way you would want them to do unto you, and all of a sudden your perspective changes.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Go ahead. You look like you had a light bulb go on.
Well, your perspective changes. It's just that simple. Just change your perspective. Even if it's not real, just try. See how it feels. And if it feels better, that's a message that it's right.
Yeah. And there's different exercises you could do to change your perspective. If you always go to work the same path, go a different way.
Exactly.
If you always park in the closest spot at the supermarket, park at the farthest spot, and just get used to being uncomfortable. And the old thing, clasping your hands like this, try doing it the other way. It just feels really weird, but half of the population do it that way, so it must not be that bad. But I'm sure a lot of people have written you telling you, how your book has changed their lives. Why don't you share some of those stories?
Yeah, those are the stories that have changed my life. It changed their life, and then they in turn changed my life, and it's pretty nice. One of the most special ones was a young girl who had lost her mom, and she was 12, and she was given the book. And the message came in from a stranger, actually, and after everybody had left the funeral home, she pulled the chair up to the casket or the coffin and read the story to her mom.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah. And I love it because, like you said, it's the simplicity of it, and if we can just look at that and the beauty, and honestly, the end of the book, I'm not sure if we have time, or do you like to read it? It takes about 2.5 reads. Can I read it? Okay,
yes.
I would love to read it because then people can have the understanding, because the messages are there for us all.
Probably have time to read the whole book.
We do. It won't take us long. 2 minutes. Want me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. I will always love you. If you're reading this now and I'm far away, please pay attention. I've got something to say. It was my time to go, and I can't explain why, but there was a reason. It was my turn to fly. Now I can see you from my new place of rest. You must understand you are still truly blessed. Realize that by letting me go, you'll give both of us freedom more than you know. Believe in angels and spirits or not, but consider this, I hear all of your thoughts. Your life lies ahead, and it's all very great. I'm privileged now to see all of your fate. I have one last wish, and it's part of the theme. It's you choosing to choose to follow your dream. My gifts to you include memories and love, and now you'll have more with my guidance above. I'll send you hints so you know I'm around. Pay closer attention to each sight and each sound. You might see butterflies or other clues that I leave. It could be a rainbow, you'll just have to believe. Focus on love and trust in good things. Listen to your intuition and see what life brings. Open your mind and change as you need. Embrace new directions. See where they lead. Welcome your challenges as they appear. Accept them as lessons. There's nothing to fear. They come with messages and purposes too. It's all part of your learning. They're gifts for you. See them with gratitude and understand their role, and then get back to focusing the thoughts you control. Trust your heart as you follow your dreams. It has been directed by the highest of teams. You hold the power and the answers inside. Turn into your heart, let it be your guide. You create your world with each thought that you think. Your beliefs build your future as fast as you blink. The mind is a garden that grows flowers and weeds, and one who chooses good thoughts always succeeds. Trust me, I know advice is easy to give, but divine wisdom shows this is how you should live. Be the one who shares the light that was mine. Honor me now by letting yours shine. Trust that I'm free and home at last. Cherish each moment. Life goes by so fast. And remember, I will always love you.
Wow. And I had the privilege and advantage of following along with you in my copy of the book. Did you do that, Adrienne? Did you have one?
I have one, yes, but I didn't have it handy. And I didn't want to go to my bookshelf.
Well, with that, I think that requires a moment of meditation, and we'll take a break while you're all doing that. So we'll be right back. Don't go away. And we're back with Melissa Lyons and Adrienne Gruberg, and I'm Dave Nassaney from the Caregiver Dave Show. I just wanted to read your inside cover. The intention of this book is to bring peace and comfort to those of us who have lost someone we dearly love. Whether it's hope or a sense of knowing, the thought that our loved ones are somewhere happy, free, and possibly around us can bring a sense of joy that lifts us into a higher place that feels good. Wow. Now, I noticed that the children's faces, they don't have any. So that just feels special. What was your reasoning for no faces?
I'm so glad that you brought that up and you noticed it. Well, I want everyone to be able, any child of any color, race, gender, whatever, wherever they're coming from, to be able to pop themselves into those people, those children.
Yeah, I think it works.
Yeah, skin color too, right? It's a nondescript skin color as well as no faces. Mm-hmm. Yeah, intentional, and it's a brother and sister together on their journey, like all of us.
Now, your second book, Until We Meet Again, has a similar intent and impact as I Will Always Love You. However, it deals with the loss of pets, which can be more, well, as tragic as the loss of a human. Because after all, you know, our pets love us unconditionally. And I haven't met a person yet who's able to do that. So it just makes sense that we would grieve maybe even more at the loss of a pet, because they meant so much to us. I mean, when my wife's first dog got hit by a car, I mean, she grieved. We all grieved, but she especially, for 3 months. And now she has another dog. She didn't want another dog because, you know, we want to protect our hearts. But our daughter bought this dog for the kids and stuff, and somehow she took ownership of it again. And their relationship is just as strong, if not more. Yeah. And he follows her around wherever she goes. He's the perfect caregiver dog. Let's talk about the story behind the story.
Yeah, the story behind the story is that when I Will Always Love You, when people started to talk about it, of course we had all the beautiful stories about how it impacted their lives, but so often it turns into, and I once lost a dog, or and I once lost a cat. And it seems that we don't seem to celebrate their lives like, well, it doesn't seem, we don't celebrate their lives in death the same way we do with humans. And so there's a lot of unhealed wounds, a lot of things that didn't get closure. And people really want to talk about that. So the purpose of having that book is to remind people about that unconditional love and what our pet would want for us. The same thing like you were saying. Turn it around, change your perspective. Do you think they really want you sad for 3 months? They never wanted you sad when they were alive. They don't want you sad now.
Yeah, and I always mention how, you know, pets don't talk, obviously, unless you have a talking horse or something. But
you don't have a talking horse?
No, he died. And my wife obviously can't talk, and to watch those two communicate, it's so funny, it's so amazing, it's so inspiring because they just speak nonverbally to each other. And yet I know exactly what my dog is thinking most of the time. He makes it known with his actions and his sounds and his tonality and his behavior, and so does my wife. And so for those who put a value on speaking, 90% of communication, 80-90% of communication is nonverbal, and so to have that close of a bond with an animal or even a person that cannot speak. A lot of people say, "Well, how do you talk? How do you do it?" I mean, boy, I couldn't do it. But I should just say, "Do you have a dog?"
You know what? Yeah.
There you go.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very true. Very true. And the thing that about the animals too that they teach us is the importance of the self-worth, which is that missing link of shifting perspectives and allowing ourselves to come back after grief or after a loss, is to value that we're worth it. We're worth being good to ourselves.
Yeah.
One of my favorite pages in that book is the animal saying to the person, "Allow your mind time to unwind and be free. Be as kind to yourself as you were to me." Because we treat our animals better than we treat ourselves a lot of times.
Yeah, I was talking about the person who's going to have a film made about her, with the last week's guest, and you can imagine when you have a loved one that is in and out of rehab and drugs and now eating disorder and all of this. After a while, you burn all your bridges. Nobody wants to even associate or communicate with them anymore because they've just made it so uncomfortable to be around. And yet a little cat scratching at the door got through to this girl where no human was able to, not the strangers, not the friends, not the family. And so that little pet has got a lot of power because, like I said, it's unconditional love. Now she has a reason to wake up in the morning because the cat meows until you feed her, and if you go away, you got to come back because you got to feed the cat or let her out or let her in or whatever. So yeah, it's very, very powerful. And when they go, it's even more devastating, I think. So where do you go? Where do you go from now? Where do you go from here?
Well, a few different places. I've learned from both of the books that a lot of us, me especially, overcomplicated things for so long. So my goal is to help simplify it for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm working on one project called Simple Subtle Shifts, where you spend 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes listening to a reflective affirmation, the same one for 10 days, and each day you answer one question. That will take you closer to getting through something that's avoiding you in some way, like whether it be self-love or I am enough or fitness. So that's one of the projects.
Where does your inspiration come from? It all comes out of your head?
Yeah, I think it comes from my life experience. Sometimes you wonder, like, if you look back and you're like, life wasn't. You see some people's lives, and it seemingly looks kind of easy, and you're like, oh, mine wasn't quite like that. It's like, oh, I guess that was the reason why, so that I would have something to figure out. So I just have to go back to, like, if I took every year of my life with something that I couldn't figure out. And I there's a lot of that divine knowledge that comes through us when we stop and listen, right? It's there.
You're adorable. Do you have a husband?
I do. I've been married 29 years this year.
Wow. So he appreciates you, obviously.
Yeah.
He's a lucky guy.
Good. It's good. Well, he's really supportive. When you do things like this, you need that support of people watching you go through your journey, because some days you don't have a clear path all the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got 2 adult daughters who are very supportive as well, so that's really nice. Yeah. Yeah.
So our audience is to caregivers. So I'm assuming that at one point in time you were a caregiver to somebody.
Yeah, we had my grandmother who lived with my mom, and I actually, when I first got married, we had an apartment, and I was newly pregnant, and we were all set up to live with my parents, and then all of a sudden, my grandmother wasn't well, so we moved out, and she moved in, and
Oh, that worked out.
it did. But
How
yeah,
is
what a thing, yeah.
Yeah,
how, is she?
that
How,
sounds like my life.
Does it really? Someone in,
Yeah,
someone out,
I
yeah.
I I got engaged, moved back from Boston to live at home before I got married, and then my grandfather died, and my grandmother moved into my room. So
well,
that it's the same
Yeah, and that's what this.
displacement.
Yeah, and it's like it's supposed to happen that way because it did and it could, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
is your grandmother still alive?
she's not. She's not.
Oh,
I do credit my inspiration, especially in I Will Always Love You. I really think she was talking to me.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's true or not true, but I'm going to believe it. Yeah,
yeah, you can
Was
believe it.
that
yeah,
close to unconditional love from your grandmother?
yeah. You know what? I think so. And and it's funny how our
It's easier
memories
for
go.
grandparents.
Yep.
Yeah, it is, right? It's so true. And I think that
They don't have to live with you.
it's true. And you only keep the good memories. You lose the bad ones. I don't remember ever not being perfect. She always
Yeah,
was.
and it
Yeah.
and if your children are jealous of your relationship with their children, then you're doing the right thing, I think.
There you
And,
go.
and mine
That's
is,
true.
so I must be doing the right
Yeah.
thing. She said, well, you never
Yeah.
did that with me. I said, well,
I have a question for you. May I?
you may.
I think that it's great. Like you are simplifying, you are giving people the option to change perspectives and perceptions. And is it working? Are you seeing people and hearing from people that they're really like taking a new walk and making a new path?
Well, not as many as I would like. Most caregivers, first of all, I'd say 30%, I don't think I can help. I don't think they'll ever change. I don't think they'll ever stop their destructive ways. And that must be why 30% of them statistically will die before their loved one do. Because they don't take care of themselves. They don't value their life more than, or at least as equal to, their loved one. I don't know what issues are going on in their heads. Maybe Adrienne knows more about what makes a caregiver be so self-destructive as they are. What do you think, Adrienne?
Oh, there are so many reasons. The time issue, the feeling that I'm the only one that can do it because the person that they're caring for um,
Yeah, they wallow a lot in that
is
self-pity.
the person that they're caring for very often will inflict guilt that you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, you have to be here with me. And some caregivers buy into that very easily. It's almost easier to buy into it than to fight it.
Yeah, and you brought up
Yeah.
self-worth. They don't think much of themselves, but now all of a sudden another person needs them. And this is all subconscious. I'm sure they don't realize this, but
That
that makes them feel really good that, oh
worthy.
my God, all of a sudden I'm needed. Another person in this
Yes.
world cannot do anything without me. And it's a double-edged sword, of course, because you're almost a prisoner in caregiver prison, and yet it's not going on a conscious level because that's what caregivers need to do. They need to take all the things that are going on unconsciously and make them conscious so they can see, oh, I see what's going on here. Yes, that's and then they can separate things and categorize and compartmentalize things, and then they can start taking care of themselves. Oh, me taking care of myself first, or going out and getting my nails done, or going and getting a massage, or going for a weekend off, doesn't diminish my love for my loved one. They can separate those two. One has nothing to do with the other, and therefore the guilt doesn't have to be there.
No, for me, the interesting thing is even when the person that's being cared for is abusive, and that happens very frequently. There's that resistance not to care. I got to do it, regardless of what they say, what they do, what she says, what she does. There is a lot of abuse. And
then they complain about it, and it
that
feels
a lot. And then they complain about it. Yes,
and it feels good to complain.
Yes, and
actually they're venting. It should feel good to vent, but they're doing it in an inappropriate way.
Right.
If they would just join support groups and realize they're not alone, and other people are going through the same thing, they can share stories, they can vent in a healthy way and in a healthy environment. But thank God for the ones that do get it. I think, I can't put a number or a percentage on it, but if let's look at statistics. 30% of them die. As much as, it's a fuzzy number, but as much as 60% will not die. They'll hang in there, but they will become sicker than the ones they care for, perhaps hospitalized, and will eventually need a caregiver of their own. So that kind of only leaves 10%, and that's a pretty sad statistic that everything that we're doing is really only helping 10% of the people. I hope the number's higher, but it's impossible to figure out how many people we're helping. But we get those cards and letters coming in just like you do, and that's what keeps us going. Think about the golfer. All he needs is one hole-in-one every 5 years to keep him going back to that thing and cursing, when he throws it into the rough or whatever. So it doesn't take much. I used to say that I can operate on crumbs, but my wife, when she was in her grief, wasn't even giving me the crumbs. So I was in a serious place because I don't require much. Just give me some crumbs to lick. But if you're not even getting the crumbs, then that's bad. But I get full course gourmet meals now. I don't have to last on crumbs. So grief was really bad for her. Anger was her favorite emotion.
Yeah.
A lot of people's favorite.
Well, like you said, Adrienne, you said it earlier. It's easier. It's easier to take on the role it's harder on the outside. You know what it is? It's like it's a lot easier to paint your house and get new floors and new countertops than it is to actually do some work on the inside of your heart.
Right. Exactly.
Go get your hair done, or get some new clothes. It's like, no. What about just sitting down and writing how you feel and why you're so angry about A, B, or C? How about you just spend 10 minutes doing that? Oh, I don't have time. You do. It's more important than your grass.
Yeah, people try and fill themselves up with, compulsive shopping, compulsive eating, the various things that you need to take in to fill yourself up, and it doesn't work. You can't fill yourself up unless you work on your heart. Yep.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
We're going to take another break.
And they say, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
And they say, as you get rid of things, you make room for more things to come into your life. So
downsizing is very important. Getting rid of stuff and people who just, maybe they're not hoarders, but they're going in that direction. And my wife finally is letting go of things because every time we moved, there was so much stuff, and it all went in the attic, and we never saw it. And she's going through stuff now, so I think that's an improvement.
That's great.
Because we all need to downsize. We all need to let go of things.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Dave Nassaney, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. And he now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his incredible caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's my life too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. Will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life, and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere and at caregiverscaregiver.com. And we're back with Melissa Lyons and my co-host Adrienne Gruberg, and I'm Dave Nassaney on the Caregiver Dave Show. And let's talk about being stuck. Has anybody ever been stuck before?
Never. Yeah. What kind of stuck are you talking about specifically?
Well, how many different stucks are there?
Yeah. I think stuck is when you take the easy way out because everything just seems too hard, and you just take what Adrienne just said it a few minutes ago. I think that when it's easier to be that person who has to carry everything on their shoulders, it's a lot easier putting everybody else's problems, everybody else's needs on top of your own. Even in your oxygen mask example, and actually saying, "I matter, I'm worth it," and you're stuck. You can't get out of it.
Yeah, that kind of makes you the hero or the martyr or
Right.
the one who is, the superhero with your red cape. And really, that'd be okay if you were doing okay, but these people are not doing okay. They're doing terrible. So,
And those heroes wear disguises, don't they? They
yes,
all have something covering
yes.
them up. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a hidden message there. So I think that being stuck is that thing where you need something simple to help you get out of, something small, not something that's going to be so rash that you just do it for a few days and you can't come back. Small things,
Yeah.
changing how you look at things. It's funny, we've talked about all of the things even today that we need to do. One of the things, when I first wrote I Will Always Love You, one of my first bulk sales, this is going to relate to this being stuck thing, somebody bought over 20 books, and they purchased them, and they were healthy people, I would say in their 60s, and they bought them for their children and grandchildren, and they signed a special note in all of them. They put them away with their will. And so they might not see those books for another 10, 20, 30 years, those people who are receiving them. And I think that it's an important
Seems like
thing
a
to
waste
realize. It seems like a
No,
waste.
I
Oh,
don't think
that
so.
they have
I
to
think it's a
wait.
wonderful gesture.
No,
yeah.
it's great, but, really, do they have to wait that long? They could be blessed right now.
They could be. You're right. But the thing that I think that sometimes we get stuck because we don't have permission. We don't have permission from either ourselves or the perceived person that we think is holding us in that life. Whether it be an abusive person that is being cared for. So I guess the opposite of stuck is permission to change, permission to grow, permission to live, permission to do something to feel better.
And I think that people have to look and realize that you can take small steps. Just don't look at the changes as a huge project. Just think about all the little things that you can do to get yourself on your way, and see that you can realize your goal if you do it that way.
Yeah, I think for caregivers, I know I felt stuck because I felt trapped and stuck at my house, and I needed to get away, but I couldn't get away, and I felt guilty for even thinking that I need to get away. And so, yeah, and people get stuck in their jobs, dead-end jobs, climbing the ladder of success with a company, and you get to the top and you realize it was leaning against the wrong building. Now you're in a midlife crisis, starting all over again. Nobody wants to hire some old guy. It's tough. A lot of stucks out there.
A lot of stucks out there. Yeah. Yeah. So the thing when you're stuck is that you have to just take the small actions to feel a little bit better. And as long as you're feeling a little bit better, you're getting closer towards something that's better. And if you're feeling a bit worse, you're getting closer to being more stuck.
Yeah, and if you have a hobby
You
or
know?
interest, start a business. You don't have to quit your job just yet, but maybe that hobby and business, when you start making as much money as your job, then let go of the job. But maybe it won't work, but maybe it will work. You won't know unless you
You,
try it. No
Yeah,
you know,
greater pain than the pain of regret.
mm, I think
that's
the
true.
the act of writing for a caregiver is the opportunity to take the steps to realize what you can do for yourself. You may seem, you may feel like you're totally stuck, and all of a sudden realize, oh, I'm really not totally stuck. I have some options.
Yeah,
There are things
Hmm.
that I can do. So
that
Yeah,
how
that's
do
when
I
you
go
come to the
about it?
different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. You know what else I think happens is like think about back to the early days when like we were dating and getting to know somebody and you know you go on small dates and then you go on like some bigger ones and you spend a bit more time and you get to know that person and you know and then you go your own separate ways and you meet up with them 25 or 30 years later. They're not that same person, right? They've changed. But what we forget is that we're not that same person either. And we spend so much time working on everything again outside of ourselves, caring for other people, following our careers, that all of a sudden we're sitting there and we have this life in front of us. And it's like we keep making decisions, but we're not even making decisions for the person we've become because we haven't taken time to figure out who that was or
Right.
is. Like it really happens. I ask people all the time, like, "Are you living your dream?" And they're like, "Oh, not really." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, what's in your way? Okay, here's all the money. Here's everything you want. Now, what do you want to do?" They're like, "Well, I don't really know what I want to do."
Hmm.
We walk like zombies, not really knowing what our passion and purposes are, and it's not our fault because no one's telling us to do it, so we're not.
Well, you're 50. You must have gone to at least 4 different high school reunions, right?
I haven't gone to one. But anyway, I'd like to.
And why is
I
that?
see friends. I moved far away, but anyway, no, but
Okay.
I see friends. So yeah, like I see the people when I go home sometimes. But yeah, anyway, what were you going to say?
Uh, just that, I've been to all of mine because I haven't moved
Lucky.
far away.
Okay.
So I'm 65. I've been to 28. 30. I've been to 4. Ones should be coming up pretty soon. But a lot of these people, are they living their dream? No. Many of them who were the big shots, the football players, the jocks, they're just kind of, living a very simple life, and maybe they're not married because for whatever reason. So if a person is generally not married, it generally means there are exceptions that, they're kind of unhappy, they're kind of lonely, they've been looking, and they can't find that right person. And when when a man is single anyway, he kind of lives a different lifestyle. He doesn't eat well. He eats TV foods, and he might spend time at the bar, and the whole lifestyle just changes. And yet there are other people, the geeks and the people who you never would expect to do it, the people that were bullied, the people everyone made fun of. They're working for Microsoft making millions of dollars or whatever. Not always, but it's so ironic that
Yes.
I spent so much energy in school, emotional energy, just worrying about what people thought of me and the peer pressure, and one time saying, I wonder with suicide if that would be better than the pain that I go through every day. And so many people made movies about the pain of junior high and high school and the bullying that
Sure.
goes on there. And yet, permanent solution to a temporary problem. It'd be nice if the word got out that high school is not life. Just hang in there. Yet,
This too shall pass.
a lot of
Yeah.
adult problems are still deep rooted in us from high school
Hmm.
or grade school. And when you become a caregiver, it seems like all that stuff comes to the surface because now, you're in a situation where you have totally no control, And by the way, we're never in a situation we have no control. We always have control over
Yeah.
something. I think of
Yeah.
the guy who was a dancer and he loved to dance, but he had to sweep out this warehouse. Well, he started dancing with the broom, doing a little Fred Astaire thing
There you go.
with a coat rack. And so there's lots of ways. It's all about perspective, like you said. So let's talk about anchors. I'm a sailor and I know anchors. And anchors are designed to keep my boat from drifting away because we can drift miles down the shore if we stop the boat and we don't even feel like we're drifting. And so in my case, anchor is a good thing. But when I was a caregiver, I felt like there was an anchor around my neck and I wanted to be free. I wanted that boat to travel and that boat was stuck and that anchor wasn't coming out of the ground. So what's your story about anchors? Good or bad?
Both. It's like you said, it depends how you look. If you've got an anchor that keeps you stationary, then you find how to dance, find a way to dance with your broom. And if you can lift your anchor and you can see the world, then you do it too. I think at different times in your life we get all those different opportunities. Like they come and go, like you said. But the worst thing that we can have is to be anchored into the past, to use your high school example, because we become someone so different every year, minute, decade, it doesn't matter. But we don't grow with ourselves. And that's such a missed opportunity to realize who we've become.
Yeah. And
We need someone else to tell us who we are, but because we're too afraid to actually see it for ourselves. And often we're better than we were.
and maybe it's my imagination, but I don't think so. But
What don't you think?
I
That we
have
don't get better?
discovered. No, no, it's a new topic.
Oh.
I should have said that first. It seems like mothers and daughters have the most problems caregiving to each other. And I don't know why. There's just a lot of daughters, including my wife, they just had problems relating to their mother. Now, every now and then you get a mother and daughter who are best friends and they get along and they go shopping together and there's no problems. But I think that's the minority. Is it me, or is most of mother and daughter relationships kind of weird? Both of you.
Both of us?
I think. Well, I'll chime in really
Opinion.
fast and first. I think I don't see it that way. My mom. I mean, my mom as a caregiver for my grandmother in the primary sense. It was
But
very
you got along with your
special.
mother?
Yeah. Well, my mom's still alive. Yeah. But when she was the caregiver for her mom, it was pretty beautiful. I don't
Okay,
know
so
about
you're
being
one of
alone
those
alone.
rare people.
Well, or they are. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to hear Adrienne what you think.
Well, you're part of it. Usually, if a mother and her mother get along, then generally, I think you've got this genetic thing about everybody's just one big happy family. I think that you're more
Yeah.
likely to get along with your mother if she got along with her mother, um, and maybe you're all just. It has to do with the temperaments. If you have similar temperaments, similar things in common, a parent will always have a favorite child. And people will always tell you, parents will always say, I know. People will always say, well, my daughter's more like him and my son is more like me. So obviously,
Oops.
I feel more of a connection with my son. We can talk about certain things and laugh about certain things. We can go to a opera and enjoy ourselves, and those two, they don't want to do that. They want to go to a ball game or whatever.
Yeah, okay, go.
Yeah. No,
Silence. Crickets. Let me get a
I
cricket.
think Dave knows that my mother and I had a very, very bad relationship. Um, but when I promised my father in order to give him peace so that he would feel at ease enough to die, that don't worry, I'll be there for her. I'll take care of her. And the only way that I could do that was to treat her like she was crazy because she was such a narcissist that I just, instead of fighting with her, I just learned to let go and agree with her and tell her, you're right, Mom, But there were times when I gave her ultimatums because I had grown up and there were things that, I knew that there was power that I had in this relationship, but I didn't want to strip her of her dignity. So.
Because you're a nice person.
He was right.
But here we have two opposite ends of the spectrum,
Right.
Both of you. And so I don't know if there's any data on the subject, but I would love to do a national poll on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rank your relationship with your mother? I don't know what those scores would be, But whatever it is, it affects caregiving, and that's who our audience is, caregiving.
Yeah.
And you talk about grief in your book, and when that parent dies, if the relationship was really bad, you would think, oh, there's relief that she's gone. But a lot of times there's not relief. There's guilt that, oh my gosh, I should have done more when she was alive. And then you start feeling guilty about all the thoughts, all the things you've said, all the things you've thought about while she was still alive. I should have visited her more in the convalescent hospital or whatever it is.
Not me. I sang Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. I'm serious.
Oh.
I mean, I knew that I had done my very best, and that's all that I could do was my very best. And I thought that she was damned lucky that I had evolved enough to be able to do that.
Okay, so now that you both know that, Adrienne, that there are parents, mother and daughters who actually love each other and love each other, and Melissa, that there are mothers and daughters who don't, for whatever reason. You're very fortunate, be blessed that you have a wonderful mother, and that she had a wonderful mother, and that's a great legacy that she's passed on. You have daughters at all?
Yeah, I have 2 daughters. So
well, there you go. And now you can look forward to the great relationship that you and your daughter are going to have as you become elderly and need care, and possibly, let's say your husband dies first, and now it's just you living in one of your children's homes, and everyone just gets along great. What a great legacy. But unfortunately, it's not so for everybody, unfortunately.
That's for sure. But we talk about it a lot already now because my grandmother nursed my grandfather till he died or till she couldn't feed him anymore. And then my mother did that with her mom. But we don't have the same plans with my parents because we've talked about it. And my children won't have the same plans with us because we've talked about it. We all have a hard part where it's like, okay, now the next move is coming and we know now. So that's because I think one of the things that's really important, once you get past the guilt, well, what's the thing that stops us from getting past guilt? Forgiveness. We have to forgive ourselves for all those things that you said, didn't visit enough, didn't this, didn't that. So once you decide that you can forgive yourself or accept yourself as doing the best you can, there's the freedom. And what do we all want? We want freedom, right? Freedom to be okay.
And I'm not sure what my motive for doing this has, but ever since my kids were little, I would tell them, one day I'm going to be old and gray, and someone has to change my diaper, and as I'm doing this nice thing for them. Now, you just remember all the nice things I did for you, because my diaper is going to need changing one day. And when they're like 3 and 4, they go, ooh, but I kept saying it when they were 12 and 13. I kept saying it when they were 20, and I keep saying it when they're 40 and 50 now. And maybe, if nothing else, guilt will get them to do it. That they're just not going to leave me around in a messy diaper. Well, I think we've covered all the bases here. Melissa, how does someone get a hold of you if they want to learn more about what you're doing, or maybe buy a book, or just want to chat?
Well, it would be wonderful. I'd love to hear from anybody who wants to talk about any of the things we talked about today. My website is melissa-lyons.com. So Melissa hyphen or dash Lyons.com, or Melissa Lyons Author on Facebook, and email Melissa at melissa-lyons.com. Yeah, it's been really great. I really enjoyed this.
Oh,
what was your email again? You said that very fast.
I did. Okay, thank you for slowing me down. So it's Melissa, Melissa, at Melissa hyphen or dash Lyons, Lyons.com.
Okay.
And you need the dash, otherwise you'll find some other Melissa Lyons.
You'll find
right?
Exactly. Someone who can sing and dance, not like me. Yeah, I'd like to mention the title of my new book that's going to be out probably early next year. It's called, it could change, but it's called Dance at My Funeral. Please keep shining, my love.
I love that.
And it's going to be about permission and about telling people. Yeah.
I've already told all my people, the funeral's going to be a party, and there'll be no mourning and no crying, and give as many details of what you want at your funeral to your kids right now, so that they don't fight amongst themselves. When my father died, I did it the way I thought I should, and his sisters were very upset with me. He wouldn't want this. Yes, he did. We had a conversation, and they're like, "You're lying." Oh my gosh.
Having the conversation.
Put it in writing.
Having the conversation is very important, and now our generation is doing it.
Yep, they're called advanced directives and wills and so on. Well, we appreciate both of you for coming on the show, especially you, Melissa. And we're so glad we met you in New York at the National Publicity Summit.
Yeah.
Did you get many takers on your pitch when you were there?
I did, yeah, and I'm still working through them. Yeah.
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 Well, and again, a reminder that all of our live shows become recorded pod and videocasts on our membership website, on all those sites, and also on caregiverdave.com. And by the way, we have 3 free gifts for anybody at caregiverdave.com. Check it out. No obligation. So Melissa and Adrienne, all my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next week, I want to remind everybody we have our weekly group chat call. If either of you can make it, it's at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific time. And the details are on my Facebook page as to you can either connect with a telephone or connect through the internet on Zoom. All right. Well, we had like 4 callers last week. That was only our second one.
Great.
And one just happened to be calling me. He didn't realize he was on the air, and it was my cousin. And so he had a caregiver story himself. He was his wife was a cancer survivor, so I got him to talk. And so there are no accidents. Everything happens for a reason. So until next time, we'll see you again. Thank you so much, you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program with Dave Nassaney.